Captain Hyunwoo Park stood on the bridge of the Taeguk Dawn and watched the alien ships appear in Earth's orbit. They came without warning, simply materializing from nowhere like ghosts in the darkness of space. One moment the sensors showed nothing. The next moment 47 massive vessels hung above Earth like predators circling prey. Hyunwoo had served in the military for 23 years. He had fought in the water wars of Mars and survived the Titan Rebellion. He thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," said Lieutenant Jia Kim from her station. She was young, barely 30, but one of the best weapons specialists in the fleet. Her fingers moved across her console with practice speed. "They're calling themselves the Valkyrie Empire. They want to talk." "Put it on screen," Hyunwoo ordered. The main display flickered to life. The alien that appeared made several crew members gasp. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with smooth blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer. Its eyes were large and golden, sitting in a face that was almost human, but not quite. It wore armor that glowed with soft purple light, and when it moved, the air around it seemed to bend. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said. Its voice came through perfectly in Korean, English, Mandarin, and a dozen other languages simultaneously. "I am Ambassador Thren of the Valkyrie Empire. We have been watching your species for some time. It is time we met." Ambassador Dongmin Lee stepped forward. He was a diplomat, not a soldier, but Hyunwoo respected him. The man had negotiated peace treaties that saved millions of lives. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Thren. We are honored by your presence. May I ask your intentions?" The alien's face did something that might have been a smile. "We come to bring you into the greater galactic community. The universe is vast, human. There are thousands of species among the stars. You are very young, very new. You need guidance, protection." Over the next 3 days, the Valkyrie showed humanity exactly how advanced they were. They invited delegations aboard their flagship, a vessel so massive it could swallow Earth's largest city. They demonstrated weapons that could shatter moons. They showed shields that could withstand direct hits from nuclear weapons without even flickering. They displayed ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks using something they called jump space technology. Hyunwoo attended every demonstration with Jia and Dongmin. He watched carefully. He took notes, and he began to feel a cold certainty growing in his chest. "They're not here to help us," he told Dongmin one evening in the ambassador's quarters. Dongmin sighed and poured them both tea. "I know, but what can we do? Did you see their weapons? One of their smallest ships could destroy our entire fleet." "I saw," Hyunwoo said quietly. "I also saw how they looked at us. The looks were the worst part. The Valkyrie were polite, but behind their golden eyes was something else. Amusement. Condescension. They looked at humans the way adults looked at children playing with toys." On the 4th day, the Valkyrie requested a cultural exchange. They wanted to see human military capabilities. Hyunwoo knew it was a test, but Earth's council ordered him to comply. So he prepared a demonstration in the Taeguk Dawn's cargo bay. Ambassador Thren arrived with 4 warriors. Each warrior stood over 7 feet tall and wore armor that pulsed with energy. At their sides hung weapons that looked like crystalline sculptures but could fire plasma hot enough to melt steel. "We are curious about your weapons," Thren said, gesturing around the cargo bay where Hyunwoo had arranged displays of human military equipment. "We understand you still use chemical propulsion?" "That's correct," Hyunwoo said. He picked up an assault rifle from the nearest rack. "This is one of our standard infantry weapons. It fires a solid projectile using controlled explosions." One of the Valkyrie warriors made a sound. It took Hyunwoo a moment to realize the alien was laughing. "Fascinating," Thren said, though his tone suggested it was anything but. "We abandoned such technology over 10,000 years ago. Kinetic weapons are so limited, the projectiles are slow, the range is poor, and they require physical ammunition." He shook his head. "Primitively charming." Jia stepped forward. Her jaw was tight with barely controlled anger. "Our weapons are effective," she said. "They've served us well for centuries." "Against other humans, perhaps," another Valkyrie warrior said. He tapped his chest and his armor lit up with a shimmering field of blue energy. "This is a standard combat shield. It can deflect energy weapons, disperse heat, and redirect electromagnetic radiation. Your bullets would simply bounce off. They lack the power to penetrate modern defenses." The warrior drew his plasma rifle and aimed it at a steel target across the bay. He fired without warning. The bolt of superheated plasma crossed the distance in an eye blink and struck the target dead center. The steel didn't just melt, it vaporized. A perfect hole 3 feet wide appeared, the edges glowing white-hot. "That is power," the warrior said smugly. "That is modern warfare." Thren turned to Dongmin. "You see our concern, Ambassador? Your species is alone in a dangerous galaxy. Pirates, raiders, hostile empires, all armed with technology that makes your weapons look like stone axes. You need protection. The Velkari Empire offers this protection. We only ask that you join our protectorate." "What would that mean exactly?" Dongmin asked. "You would become a protected world under Velkari authority. We would station ships here for your defense. We would guide your development, help you advance. In return, you would provide resources, labor, and loyalty to the Empire." Hyunwoo spoke before Dongmin could respond. "You mean you want to rule us?" The cargo bay went silent. The Velkari warriors tensed. Thren's golden eyes fixed on Hyunwoo with an expression that was no longer amused. "Such crude language," Thren said softly. "We prefer to think of it as guardianship. You are children in galactic terms. Children need guidance." "Children grow up," Hyunwoo said. "Eventually," Thren agreed. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years humanity will be ready to stand on its own. Until then, accept reality. Look around you, Captain. Look at the gulf between your technology and ours. You fire bullets. We reshape matter. You travel between planets. We travel between stars. You play at war with firecrackers and metal pellets." He gestured dismissively at the weapons displays. "Your primitive weapons are museum pieces, adorable relics of a species that hasn't yet learned how the galaxy really works. You can join the Velkari Protectorate peacefully, or we can demonstrate exactly how outmatched you are. The choice is yours. We will return in 1 Earth month for your decision." The Velkari left without waiting for a response. Their shuttle departed the cargo bay in a whisper of anti-gravity engines. Jia threw her rifle down in frustration. "Arrogant bastards." "Accurately arrogant," Dongmin said quietly. "Everything they said is true. We can't fight them." Hyunwoo picked up the rifle Jia had thrown. He checked the magazine, sighted down the barrel, and smiled slowly. "Maybe," he said, "but they made one mistake." "What mistake?" Jia asked. "They didn't ask why we still use these weapons," Hyunwoo said. "They assumed we were primitive. They never considered that maybe, just maybe, there's a reason we never abandoned kinetic weapons entirely." He looked at the hole in the steel target, still glowing from the plasma bolt. Then he looked at his rifle. "They've fought with energy weapons for 10,000 years, he said quietly. "Their shields are designed for energy. Their armor is designed for heat. Their entire doctrine is built around it." Jia's eyes widened as she understood. "Their shields might not stop bullets." "Might not," Hyunwoo agreed. "We have 1 month to find out. And if I'm right, we're going to teach those arrogant aliens a very old human lesson." "What lesson?" Dongmin asked. Hyunwoo smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Never bring energy shields to a gunfight." Young Sik Choi had been a theoretical physicist before the Velkari arrived. He studied quantum mechanics and wrote papers that only 36 people on Earth could understand. Now he stood in an underground laboratory in Seoul, staring at pieces of Velkari technology that shouldn't exist, trying to figure out how humanity could survive. Hyunwoo had brought him the pieces himself. During the demonstrations, Jia had managed to scan the Velkari shields with every sensor she could hide. Hyungsik had the data now, and he had been studying it for 2 weeks straight without sleep. "Tell me something good," Hyunwoo said, entering the lab with Jia beside him. Hyungsik pushed his glasses up his nose and gestured at the holographic displays floating above his desk. "Their shields are beautiful," he said. "Absolutely beautiful. They create a field that can detect incoming energy signatures and adapt in milliseconds. Lasers, plasma particle beams, even electromagnetic pulses. The shield analyzes the threat and configures itself to deflect or absorb the energy." "That's not good news," Jia said. "Wait," Hyungsik said, his eyes bright despite his exhaustion. "The shields are designed around energy weapons because that's what the Velkari use. That's what everyone in the galaxy apparently uses. They abandoned kinetic weapons thousands of years ago." He pulled up another display. "But our bullets are different. They're not energy. They're solid mass moving at high velocity. Physical objects." Hyunwoo leaned forward. "Will the shields stop them?" "I don't think so," Hyungsik said. "The shields can detect energy signatures, but a bullet doesn't have an energy signature that matters. It's just mass and momentum. To the shield, it might barely register as a threat until it's already passed through. Jia's hands were shaking with excitement. Are you saying our guns might actually work? Might, Young-sik emphasized. I won't know for certain until we test it. But theoretically, yes. Their shields are optimized for the wrong kind of threat. It's like building a castle with walls designed to stop arrows but forgetting that someone might just walk through the door. Commander Haiwan Jung entered the lab at that moment. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, but she moved like a predator. She commanded Earth's elite special forces and she had been running combat simulations for 2 weeks. I heard, she said without preamble. I've been running scenarios assuming the shields fail against kinetic weapons. We can hurt them. But Captain, we need to be realistic. They have 47 ships in orbit. We have maybe a dozen vessels that can fight in space and they're all smaller than a single Valkyrie destroyer. I know the numbers, Hyunwoo said. Do you? Haewon pulled up a tactical display. Even if our bullets work, we need to get close enough to use them. Their ships can fire plasma weapons from orbit that can glass entire cities. What's our plan? Politely ask them to come down where we can shoot them? Hyunwoo smiled. It was the same cold smile he'd worn in the cargo bay. Yes, actually. That's exactly what we're going to do. 3 days later, a Valkyrie shuttle landed in Beijing. Earth's capital had been moved there after the Treaty of Unity in 2134. Now it served as neutral ground for the meeting that would decide humanity's fate. War Master, Drex emerged from the shuttle with a dozen warriors. He was larger than Thren, nearly 9 feet tall, and his armor was blood red instead of purple. He carried himself like a man who had never lost a battle because, according to Valkyrie broadcasts, he hadn't. President Jae Sung-kwan met him at the landing pad with full diplomatic protocol. Hyunwoo and Dongmin stood nearby, along with military representatives from every nation on Earth. War Master Drex, President Jae Sung said, bowing slightly. Welcome to Earth, Drex didn't bow back. I am here to inspect your military capabilities before the annexation ceremony. Ambassador Thren reports that you still use chemical weapons, kinetic projectiles. I had to see this myself. We would be honored to demonstrate, President Jae Sung said smoothly. They took Drex to a military parade ground outside the city. 20,000 soldiers stood in formation, armed with rifles, machine guns, and rocket launchers. Tanks rolled past. Artillery pieces fired rounds at distant targets. Fighter jets screamed overhead. Drex watched it all with barely concealed amusement. His warriors laughed openly. This is your military? Drex asked. Vehicles that crawl on the ground? Aircraft that fly through atmosphere? And these soldiers with their little guns? He walked up to a young Marine who stood at attention, sweat running down his face. What is your name, small human? Private Kyung-ho, sir, the Marine said. Private Kyung-ho, Drex repeated. He tapped the Marine's rifle. You think you could hurt me with this? Sir, yes, sir, Kyung-ho said. Drex laughed. It was a booming sound that echoed across the parade ground. Adorable. Your species has spirit, I will grant you that. But spirit doesn't stop plasma fire. He activated his shield. The blue energy field appeared around him, shimmering like heat waves. Fire at me, Private Kyung-ho. I will show you why your weapons are obsolete. War Master, that might not be safe, Dongmin started to say. I am perfectly safe, Drex said. Your primitive bullets cannot harm me. Fire, human. That is an order. Hyunwoo caught Kyung-ho's eye and gave the smallest shake of his head. Not yet. I cannot fire without authorization from my commanding officer, Kyung-ho said. Drex snorted. At least you have discipline. Very well, continue your parade. Show me these toys you call weapons. Then we will discuss terms of your submission. The parade continued. Drex and his warriors mocked every weapon they saw. The tanks were primitive vehicles. The artillery was short-range and inaccurate. The fighter jets were laughably slow. That evening, Drex gave an interview to Earth's media networks. He stood before cameras from every nation and spoke with absolute confidence. Humanity's weapons are museum pieces, he said. You fight with chemical reactions and metal projectiles. You have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no jump space drives. You are children playing with sticks while the galaxy wields fire. He looked directly into the cameras. In 3 days, Earth will officially join the Valkyrie Protectorate. Any resistance would be pointless and brief. Accept your place in the galaxy. Learn from your betters. Hyunwoo watched the broadcast from the underground command center beneath Beijing. Around him, military leaders from every nation monitored displays showing Valkyrie ship positions, troop movements, and shield configurations. He's making it easy for us, HFY said. She was smiling, but it was a dangerous expression. He's so confident that he's not even being careful. Pride comes before a fall, Gia said. She had been working non-stop for 2 weeks, modifying ammunition according to Young Six's specifications. I've prepared special rounds. Armor-piercing tips with depleted uranium cores, hollow points designed to fragment on impact, high-explosive rounds that detonate after penetration. If their shields don't stop regular bullets, these are going to go through them like paper. Young Six looked up from his console. I've analyzed their armor too. It's designed to disperse heat and electromagnetic energy. It's actually quite thin as far as physical protection goes. They don't need thick armor because no one shoots at them with bullets anymore. So they're vulnerable, Hyunwoo said. Very, Young Sik confirmed. But Captain, we get one chance at this. If we attack and fail, they'll adjust. They'll upgrade their shields, thicken their armor. We need to make the first strike count. The annexation ceremony is in 3 days, President Jae-sung said, joining them in the command center. Drex has demanded we stage it on the surface. He wants it broadcast across Earth and sent to the Velkari Empire, a public submission. Perfect, Hyunwoo said, perfect. President Jae-sung looked at him like he was crazy. How is that perfect? Because he's bringing 200 warriors to the surface for the ceremony. He's bringing them down where we can reach them, where our weapons work best. Hyunwoo pulled up tactical maps. We'll stage the ceremony here in this plaza. We'll line the perimeter with soldiers. An honor guard, we'll call it. Ceremonial positions. He'll demand we disarm first, Dongmin said. Of course he will, Hyunwoo agreed. And we'll agree. We'll make a big show of decommissioning weapons. We'll broadcast it on every channel. We'll look defeated and compliant. But we won't actually disarm, Haewon said, understanding dawning in her eyes. We'll have weapons cached at every position, Hyunwoo said. Underground. In buildings. In vehicles. Everywhere. When Drex and his warriors are in position, when they're surrounded by 20,000 armed soldiers, we'll spring the trap. They'll fight back, President Jae-sung said quietly. People will die. People will die either way, Hyunwoo said. If we submit, we lose everything. We become slaves in all but name. Our children will grow up as second-class citizens in our own world. But if we fight, if we win, we prove that humanity can stand on its own. He looked around the command center at the faces of Earth's leaders. 3 days, he said. We prepare for 3 days. We hide weapons, position troops, and plan every detail. Young Sik, you make sure those special rounds work. Jia, you distribute them to every soldier. Haewon, you coordinate the attack. President Jae-sung, Ambassador Dongmin, you keep Drex convinced that we're beaten and broken. And if we're wrong? Young Sik asked quietly. If their shields do stop bullets. Hyunwoo met his eyes. Private Subin Han was 19 years old and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She stood at attention in her dress uniform, rifle at her side, trying not to think about what was about to happen. Around her, 50,000 people filled the plaza in Beijing. Half were civilians forced to attend the ceremony. Half were soldiers disguised as honor guards. Easy, whispered Sergeant Minho standing next to her. Breathe. Just like training. But training hadn't prepared Subin for this. Training hadn't included aliens with glowing armor and shields that could stop nuclear weapons. Training hadn't included the very real possibility that in the next hour, she might die. The ceremony was scheduled for noon. The sun blazed overhead hot and bright. Subin could feel sweat running down her back beneath her uniform. She gripped her rifle tighter and tried to remember why she had volunteered for this. Because someone has to, she thought. Because if we don't stand up now, we never will. President Jae-sung stood on a raised platform at the center of the plaza. Beside him stood Ambassador Dongmin, looking calm despite everything. Behind them, carefully arranged for the cameras, sat tables covered with documents. The Annexation Treaty. Humanity's surrender, written out in careful legal language. The Velkari shuttles landed at exactly noon. 20 vessels touched down around the plaza, their landing gear making no sound at all. Doors opened and warriors emerged. 200 Velkari in blood-red armor, shields shimmering around them, plasma weapons at their sides. War Master Drex was the last to emerge. He strode to the platform like he owned the planet, which in his mind he probably did. His golden eyes swept over the crowd with casual contempt. Humans of Earth, his voice boomed across the plaza, amplified by technology Subin didn't understand. Today marks a new chapter in your species' history. Today you join the Velkari Protectorate. You will be protected, guided, and brought into the galactic community. Your primitive ways will end. Your violent history will be forgotten. You will learn civilization from those who have mastered it. Subin felt anger burn in her chest. Primitive? Violent? She thought of her grandmother, who had survived the water wars and spent 40 years afterward building peace. She thought of her teachers, her friends, the billions of humans who had built everything from stone tools to starships through determination and intelligence. As a symbol of your new status, Drex continued, you will surrender your weapons. All of them. They will be destroyed as the outdated relics they are. President Jae-sung stepped forward. He looked defeated, his shoulders slumped. Subin wondered if he was acting or if the weight of what they were about to do was crushing him. We agree to your terms, President Jae-sung said quietly. Of course you do, Drex said. You have no choice. Now order your soldiers to disarm. I want to see every weapon placed on the ground. President Jae-sung turned to face the plaza. For just a moment, his eyes met Subin's. For just a moment, she saw something in his expression that wasn't defeat at all. Soldiers of Earth, he said slowly. Clearly, we remember our ancestors, that was the code phrase. 4 simple words that meant everything. Subin didn't move. None of the soldiers moved. They stood at attention, rifles at their sides, absolutely still. Drex's eyes narrowed. I said disarm. Place your weapons on the ground. No, President Jae-sung said quietly. The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Drex stared at the president like he couldn't quite believe what he'd heard. What did you say? I said no. President Jae-sung stood straighter now. Humanity does not surrender. Not today. Not ever, Drex laughed. It was a harsh, angry sound. You fool. Do you think your primitive weapons can harm us? Do you think defiance means anything when we can destroy you with a thought? He activated his shield. The blue energy field blazed around him, brighter than before. Fire at me if you dare. Show me the futility of your resistance. President Jae-sung looked past Drex to where Captain Hyunwoo stood at the edge of the platform. Hyunwoo nodded once. Private Subin Han, President Jae-sung called out, his voice carrying across the plaza. Fire. Subin's hands weren't shaking anymore. She raised her rifle in one smooth motion, sighted down the barrel at Drex's chest, and squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. The sound of the shot echoed across the plaza, a sharp crack that seemed too small for what happened next. The bullet passed through Drex's shield like it wasn't there. The blue energy field flickered but didn't stop the projectile. Subin had loaded her rifle with armor-piercing rounds like Jia had instructed. The bullet hit Drex in the right shoulder and punched clean through. Purple blood sprayed. Drex staggered backward, his golden eyes wide with shock. He looked down at the hole in his shoulder, at the blood running down his armor, and then up at Subin with an expression of complete disbelief. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. 50,000 people stood frozen, staring at the wounded War Master. 200 Velkari warriors stood with their hands on their weapons, not understanding what had just happened. Then Drex screamed, "Kill them! Kill them all!" The plaza erupted into chaos. Velkari warriors raised their plasma weapons and fired. Bolts of superheated energy lanced across the plaza. The first shots hit buildings, civilians, soldiers. A man next to Subin exploded into flames. A woman 20 feet away simply vanished, vaporized by a direct hit. But the soldiers were already moving. They had trained for this. They had prepared. Fire. Sergeant Minho shouted. 50,000 rifles fired as one. The sound was deafening, like thunder rolling across the earth. Bullets filled the air in a solid wall of metal and death. The Velkari shields flickered and failed. Some bullets bounced off armor. Most didn't. The armor that was designed to disperse heat and energy couldn't stop solid projectiles moving at supersonic speeds. Subin fired until her rifle was empty, reloaded, and fired again. She saw warriors fall, purple blood spreading across red armor. She saw one try to activate some kind of grenade, only to take 3 bullets to the chest and collapse. She saw another raise its plasma weapon at her, and she shot it in the head before it could fire. It was nothing like training. It was louder, more confusing, more terrifying than anything Subin had imagined. But it was also working. The Velkari were dying. On the platform, Drex tried to reach his shuttle. Commander Haewon appeared from nowhere, a sniper rifle in her hands. She fired once. The bullet hit Drex in the back of the head and the War Master fell without a sound. Snipers target their officers. Hee-Won's voice came through Subin's earpiece. "Machine gunners, concentrate fire! Everyone else, keep shooting." The battle lasted 17 minutes. That's what the report said later. To Subin, it felt like hours. She fired until her rifle barrel was hot enough to burn her hands. She reloaded 6 times. She saw friends die, saw people she'd trained with cut down by plasma fire. But when the smoke cleared, 143 Velkari warriors were dead. The remaining 57 had tried to retreat to their shuttles. They didn't make it. Rocket launchers destroyed the shuttles before they could take off. The surviving warriors fought hand-to-hand desperately, with a ferocity born of shock and horror. Humanity won. Subin stood in the aftermath, surrounded by bodies, human and alien alike. Her ears rang from the gunfire. Her hands were blistered from the hot rifle. She was covered in blood, though she wasn't sure whose. "Private Han," Captain Hyunwoo said, appearing beside her. He looked tired but satisfied. "Good shooting, sir," Subin managed to say. "What happens now?" Hyunwoo looked up at the sky where 47 Velkari ships still hung in orbit. "Now we see if they're as arrogant as Drex was. If they are, we have a fighting chance. If they're not, we might be about to have a very bad day." Lieutenant Jia ran up, her tablet in hand. "Captain, the orbital fleet is moving. They're taking attack positions over major cities. How long until they can fire?" 15 minutes, Hyunwoo smiled grimly. "Then we have 15 minutes to show them that primitive doesn't mean helpless. Get me Admiral Bora. It's time to show these aliens what happens when you underestimate humanity." President Jae-sung approached, stepping over Velkari bodies. His face was grim. "Captain, we just killed 200 aliens in front of the whole world. There's no going back from this." "Good," Hyunwoo said. "I don't want to go back. Forward is the only direction left. We've shown them that their shields don't work against our weapons. We've shown them that their warriors can die. Now we show them that their ships can burn." He turned to the assembled soldiers, thousands of them standing in the blood-soaked plaza. "Prepare for orbital combat," he ordered. This was just the opening move. The real battle starts now. Subin checked her rifle, reloaded with fresh ammunition, and stood ready. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She had fired the first shot in humanity's war for independence. She would fire as many more as it took. Around her, 50,000 soldiers prepared for the next phase. Above them, Velkari warships began their attack run. And beneath the city, hidden in bunkers and silos, Earth's real weapons began to activate. The aliens had mocked humanity's primitive weapons. They had laughed at bullets and chemical propulsion. They had assumed that newer technology was always better. They were about to learn that sometimes the old ways work best. Sometimes a simple bullet beats an energy shield. Admiral Bora Song watched the Velkari fleet reposition from the bridge of the carrier Incheon. Her fleet, if it could even be called that, consisted of 12 vessels, 3 carriers, 5 frigates, and 4 destroyers. They were the best ships humanity had built, equipped with railguns, missile batteries, and nuclear weapons. Against 47 Velkari warships, each one capable of destroying cities, it seemed like a joke. "Ma'am, they're charging weapons," reported Commander Tae Yang-oh from the frigate Busan. His voice came through clear on the communication channel. "I'm reading plasma buildup in their main batteries. They're going to fire on Beijing, Seoul, Tokyo, New York, and London simultaneously." Bora had expected this. War Master Drex was dead. 200 Velkari warriors were dead. The aliens had been embarrassed in front of the galaxy. They would respond with overwhelming force to make an example of Earth. "All ships implement Delta formation," Bora ordered. "Activate the ground-based systems. Authorization code, Mongoose 7. Across Earth, hidden installations came to life. Railgun platforms that had been disguised as research stations. Missile silos hidden beneath farms and cities. Laser batteries built into mountains. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since the Velkari first arrived, building weapons in secret while pretending to be helpless and defeated. The first Velkari ship fired. A massive plasma bolt lanced down from orbit toward Beijing. The beam was 3 meters wide and hot enough to turn stone to vapor. It never reached the ground. 3 railgun platforms fired simultaneously. Solid tungsten. Projectiles launched at a significant fraction of light speed. They streaked up through the atmosphere in less than a second and struck the Velkari ship's underside. The shields flickered, held, but the kinetic impact was enormous. The ship lurched sideways, its plasma beam cutting across empty sky instead of hitting the city. "Direct hit!" Young Six's voice came through from the ground control center. "Shield integrity dropped 60%. They can't adapt fast enough to kinetic weapons." "All platforms, fire at will," Bora ordered. The sky lit up. Hundreds of railgun rounds launched from Earth's surface, crossing the distance to orbit in seconds. The Velkari ships activated their shields, the blue energy fields blazing bright. Some projectiles bounced off or were deflected, but the shields that could stop energy weapons without effort struggled against solid mass moving at incredible velocity. A frigate-sized Velkari ship took 17 hits in 5 seconds. Its shields collapsed. The 18th round punched through the hull, and the ship began venting atmosphere and debris. "They're breaking formation," Tae-Yang reported. 3 ships are moving to engage the railgun platforms directly. "Let them come closer," Bora said calmly. "Missile batteries. Prepare nuclear payload." Fleet Mistress Krell watched from the flagship Dominion as one of her destroyers died. She had been with the Velkari military for 70 years. She had conquered 14 worlds. She had never seen anything like this. The humans were fighting back with primitive weapons, and it was working. "How is this possible?" demanded her tactical officer. "Our shields should stop their projectiles." "Their projectiles have mass," Krell said, understanding dawning. "Pure kinetic force. Our shields are optimized for energy weapons. They can't disperse physical momentum as effectively. We can adjust the shield frequencies. It would take days." Krell snapped. "We don't have days. We have now." She studied the tactical display. 3 more ships were taking damage. The humans had railguns all over their planet firing constantly. "Target those ground installations. Destroy them before they destroy us." The Velkari fleet changed tactics. Ships dove toward the atmosphere, plasma weapons firing at the railgun platforms. Several platforms exploded under the assault. Humans died by the thousands as plasma beams cut across the surface. But the platforms kept firing. For every one destroyed, 3 more activated. And now Earth's ships were joining the battle. The Incheon launched a spread of missiles. They were simple by Velkari standards. Chemical rockets with nuclear warheads. Ancient technology that the Velkari hadn't seen in combat for thousands of years. The Velkari point defense systems activated automatically, shooting down the missiles with precision laser fire. 12 missiles destroyed. 15, 20. But the 21st missile got through. It detonated 300 meters from a Velkari cruiser. The nuclear explosion was small by modern standards, only 50 kilotons. But at that range, in the vacuum of space, it was devastating. The electromagnetic pulse scrambled the cruiser's shields for 2 critical seconds. In those 2 seconds, the Busan fired its railgun. The tungsten rod hit the unshielded cruiser and passed clean through, entering through the bow and exiting through the engines. The ship broke in half and began a tumbling fall toward Earth's atmosphere. "Yes," Tae-Yang shouted over the comm. "One more down." "Don't celebrate yet," Bora warned. "We've destroyed 2 ships. They have 45 left." "Then we destroy 45 more," Tae-Yang said. He was young, barely 30, and he had been called reckless in every performance review. Right now, Bora was grateful for his recklessness. "Busan is going in. All power to engines." "Commander, that's suicide." "Maybe," Tae-Yang said. "But I'm taking one of them with me." The Busan broke formation and accelerated toward the Velkari line. Plasma fire filled space around it. The frigate's shields lasted 14 seconds before collapsing. Hull plating melted. Sections of the ship vented to space. But Tae-Yang kept going. He aimed his burning ship at a Velkari destroyer that had moved too close to the atmosphere. "For Earth," he said calmly, and then he rammed the Busan into the destroyer at full acceleration. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire visible from the ground. Debris rained down into the Pacific Ocean. Bora closed her eyes briefly. Tae-Yang had been a pain in the ass, but he had been her pain in the ass. She would mourn him later. Right now, she had a battle to win. All ships. Evasive maneuvers. Stay close to the atmosphere where their big ships can't follow easily. Ground forces, keep those railguns firing. I don't care if you overheat the barrels. Shoot until they melt. Captain Hyunwoo coordinated the ground defense from beneath Beijing. Around him, displays showed the battle raging overhead. Ships burning, platforms destroyed, cities taking damage from stray plasma fire. We're losing, Jia said quietly. We've destroyed 4 ships. They still have 43. And our losses. I know, Hyunwoo said. The numbers were clear. 3,000 dead in Beijing alone. 2 railgun platforms destroyed. The Busan gone. At this rate, Earth would be ashes before they destroyed the Valkyrie fleet. We need to change the game, Haewon said. She had been studying the battle patterns. They're being cautious now. They're not diving into the atmosphere anymore. They're staying in high orbit and bombarding us from a distance. Can we reach them there? The railguns can reach, but accuracy drops significantly at that range, and they're shooting down our missiles before they get close. Haewon pulled up a tactical map. But there's one thing they're not expecting. What? We have 6 orbital stations. Research platforms officially. They're in high orbit, supposedly abandoned when the Valkyrie arrived. Hyunwoo understood immediately. They're not abandoned. Each one has a crew of 20, Haewon confirmed. And each one has a railgun we installed in secret. The Valkyrie have been ignoring them because they look like harmless civilian structures. If we activate them all at once, we could hit 6 ships before they realize what's happening. Hyunwoo was already typing commands. Do it. Give the crews the authorization code. In high orbit, 6 research stations suddenly came to life. Hidden panels slid open, revealing railgun barrels. The crews had been waiting for 3 weeks, living in silence, pretending their stations were dead. Now they fired. 6 tungsten rods launched simultaneously at 6 Valkyrie ships. The aliens were focused on the ground threats and Earth's mobile fleet. They didn't notice the stations until it was too late. 5 hits. 5 Valkyrie ships lost shields, took critical damage, or were outright destroyed. The 6th shot missed, but it was close enough to force 2 other ships to scatter. Fleet Mistress, the tactical officer shouted. Those stations are armed. They were hidden weapons all along. Krell stared at the display in disbelief. The humans had tricked them, had hidden weapons in plain sight while pretending to be helpless. It was clever, devious, and it was working. Destroy those stations, she ordered. Kill anything in orbit that isn't ours. The Valkyrie fleet turned its attention to the orbital stations. Plasma fire converged on the defenseless platforms. One by one, they exploded. Crews died, but they died knowing they had struck a blow for humanity. The battle raged for 8 hours. Ships fought and died, cities burned. The death toll climbed into the tens of thousands. But slowly, gradually, the balance began to shift. Earth's forces learned to coordinate their attacks. Railguns would damage, shields then missiles would slip through. Then the remaining ships would close for kill shots. It was brutal, inefficient, and costly. But it worked. One by one, Valkyrie ships fell. When the sun rose over Beijing the next morning, 31 Valkyrie ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 16, including the flagship Dominion, had pulled back to high orbit and stopped firing. Bora stood on the bridge of the Incheon. 3 weeks after the battle, General Insu Baek stood in the rebuilt command center and watched sensor displays with growing concern. The Valkyrie were coming back, but this time they weren't bringing 47 ships, they were bringing 300. They're emerging from jump space at the edge of the solar system, reported Lieutenant Jia. She had been promoted after the battle. So had many others. Earth was rebuilding, rearming, and preparing for the war everyone knew was coming. Distance 6 billion kilometers. Estimated arrival time at this velocity 4 days. Are they in combat formation? General Insu asked. No, sir. That's the strange part. They're in diplomatic formation. Escorts surrounding a flagship, but weapons powered down. Captain Hyunwoo entered the command center with Ambassador Mi Young-shin. She was the new chief diplomat, replacing Dong Min, who had died when a plasma bolt struck the presidential platform during the battle. Her first diplomatic assignment was potentially negotiating humanity's surrender to an overwhelming force. 300 ships, Mi Young said quietly. We destroyed 31 with everything we had.
How do we fight 300?
We don't, Yanwu said. We prepare to, but we don't. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have arrived weapons hot and opened fire. The fact that they're in diplomatic formation means they want to talk. Or they want us to lower our guard before they attack, Insu said. Possible, but unlikely. Young-Sik approached with a tablet full of data. The physicist looked even more exhausted than usual. He had been working non-stop analyzing captured Velkari technology. I've been studying their communications. They've been broadcasting constantly since they arrived. Not to us, to each other. And I've translated some of it. What are they saying? Hyunwoo asked. They're arguing, Young-Sik said with a tired smile. The military commanders want revenge. They want to glass Earth and make an example of us. But the Empress herself is leading this fleet and she's overruling them. She keeps using a phrase that translates roughly to strategic reassessment. What does that mean? It means she's smart, Hyunwoo said. Smarter than Drex, she's realized what we figured out. That if we can kill Velkari with our weapons, we can kill anyone in the galaxy with our weapons. And if they give us access to their technology, we'll become unstoppable. 3 days later, a single Velkari shuttle approached Earth. It transmitted surrender codes, weapons offline signals, and a request to land in Beijing for negotiations. Empress Thera was smaller than the warriors humanity had fought. She stood barely 7 feet tall, and her armor was silver instead of red or purple. But when she entered the negotiation hall with only 2 guards, every human in the room felt the weight of her presence. Captain Hyunwoo Park, she said, her golden eyes fixing on him. You killed War Master Drex. You destroyed 31 of my ships. You did this with chemical weapons and metal projectiles, weapons my people abandoned when your species was still living in caves. Your War Master underestimated us, Hyunwoo said calmly. It cost him his life. Don't make the same mistake. Thyra's mouth curved in something that might have been a smile. I don't make mistakes, Captain. That's why I'm Empress. She turned to Ambassador Mi-young. You are the diplomat? I am, Mi-young said. And I speak for Earth when I say we will not submit to your protectorate. We will not be ruled, I know, Thera said. That's why I came to negotiate an actual treaty. An alliance. Between equals, the room went silent. General Insu spoke first. Equals? You have 300 ships. You're only negotiating because we bloodied your nose. I'm negotiating because I can count, Thyra said bluntly. She gestured, and one of her guards projected a holographic display. It showed the galaxy, thousands of species, hundreds of empires. The Velkari Empire is vast. We control 400 star systems. We have been the dominant military power for 5,000 years. Do you know why? Superior technology, Young-Sik said. Complacency, Thyra corrected. We stopped innovating. We stopped adapting. We developed energy weapons and shields, and we assumed that was the pinnacle of warfare. We forgot that war is about killing your enemy before they kill you, not about having the most advanced technology. She looked directly at Hyunwoo. You remembered. You used weapons we considered obsolete, and they worked. They worked because your shields can't stop them, Jia said. Exactly, Thyra agreed. And neither can anyone else's shields in the galaxy. The Krathani use energy shields. The Solix use energy shields. The Morphean Collective uses energy shields. Every species we know, every species we've fought, uses energy-based defensive systems, because kinetic weapons were abandoned thousands of years ago across the galaxy. Hyunwoo began to understand. You want our weapons. I want an alliance with a species that can kill anyone in the galaxy, Thyra said. If you join us willingly, we share technology. You get jump space drives, advanced materials, energy generation. We get access to kinetic weapons technology. Together we become unstoppable. And if we refuse? Mi-young asked. Thyra's expression hardened. Then I destroy Earth. Not because I want revenge, but because I can't allow a potential enemy to exist with weapons that counter our defenses. It's practical, not personal, she paused. But I would prefer not to. Fleet Mistress Krell's report was very clear. You fought brilliantly. You adapted quickly. You used deception and tactics that we hadn't seen in millennia. You are, in her words, dangerously creative. The galaxy needs dangerous creativity. Why? Insu asked. Thyra waved her hand and the holographic display changed. It showed dark regions at the galaxy's edge. The Velkari Empire is not the only power in the galaxy. There are threats, Old threats that we've been holding back for centuries. Threats that are growing stronger. We need allies who can think differently, fight differently. You've proven you can do both. The negotiations lasted 3 days. Teams of lawyers, diplomats, scientists, and military officers argued over every clause. Hyunwoo participated in the military discussions. Jia worked with Valkyrie engineers on technical specifications. Young-sik nearly died of excitement when given access to jump space theories. The final treaty was complex, but the core was simple. Earth would join the Galactic Coalition as an equal member. Humanity would have full sovereignty over its territory. In exchange, Earth would share kinetic weapons technology and serve as a military partner against external threats. There's one more thing, Thyra said on the final day. The Galactic Council meets in 6 months. Every major species sends representatives. I want you to demonstrate your weapons. Why? Mi-young asked. Because right now only the Valkyrie know what happened here. Only we know that our shields are vulnerable. I want every species in the galaxy to see. I want them to understand that humanity is not prey, that Earth is not a target. Thyra smiled coldly. Fear is a powerful diplomatic tool. 6 months later, Hyunwoo stood in the Galactic Council chambers on the neutral station of Nexus Prime. Around him sat representatives of 42 species. Insectoids, reptilians, beings of pure energy, creatures that looked like geometric shapes. The diversity was staggering. Humans, one of the counselors said. It was a being called a Morpheon, all tentacles and eyes. We have heard rumors that you defeated a Valkyrie fleet with primitive weapons, that you killed War Master Drex. Are these rumors true? They are, Hyunwoo said calmly. Laughter rippled through the council. Not all species, but enough. The Morpheon continued. Impossible. The Valkyrie have the strongest military in the galaxy. Their shields are impenetrable. Would you like a demonstration? Hyunwoo asked. The laughter stopped. A demonstration? The Morpheon asked carefully. Lieutenant Kim, Hyunwoo said. Jia stepped forward with a simple assault rifle. The weapon looked crude compared to the advanced technology surrounding them. Several counselors pointed and whispered. A few laughed. This is a standard human infantry weapon, Jia said. It fires solid projectiles using chemical propulsion. Effective range 600 meters. Rate of fire 600 rounds per minute. It has existed in various forms for over 500 years of human history. Fascinating, the Morpheon said, its voice dripping with condescension. And you claim this antique can harm us? Yes, Jia said simply. Demonstrate, the Morpheon said. It activated its personal shield. Blue energy flared around it. The same type of shield that protected Valkyrie warriors. The same type of shield used by nearly every species in the galaxy. Fire at me. Show me this primitive weapon's power. Jia looked at Hyunwoo. He nodded. She raised the rifle, aimed carefully, and fired a single shot. The bullet passed through the shield without slowing. It struck the Morpheon in one of its tentacles, severing it cleanly. Purple blood sprayed across the floor. The council erupted in chaos. Counselors activated shields, drew weapons, and shouted in a dozen languages. The Morpheon stared at its severed tentacle in shock, its eyes wide with disbelief. Order, Empress Thyra commanded from her seat. Everyone calm down. This was a controlled demonstration. The Morpheon will regenerate its tentacle within hours. How? Demanded a reptilian counselor called a Solix. How did that primitive weapon penetrate a standard shield? Because it's not an energy weapon, Young-sik explained. He had accompanied the human delegation as chief science officer. Your shields are designed to stop plasma.